the number of times, you mentioned Biden, and I think it's fair to say, what are we to make of the fact that many people on the left and many people who are Democrats would hope that there would be something that would be different, that there would be a modality that where the peace principle would actually drive something rather than what seems to be something more like conventional American imperial interests. I mean, why is it that the United States, I'm a naturalized American, but born in Australia, but why is it that the United States cannot get out of this habit of doing what Biden is now doing, when I think many people hoped, just over a year ago when we went to the polls, that there might be something at a significantly different register?
Yeah, well, I think that there are many reasons to this, but the core reason for the continuity that we're seeing between Trump and Biden is the fact that the new Cold War is not merely about the political decision making that happens within in the minds of US politicians, because there are differences between Trump and Biden. As I said before, there are differences in the way that the strategy is employed, the form that it takes, but the strategy remains the same. And the new Cold War on China is rooted in deep-seated economic interests, geopolitical interests that the United States' political establishment and the corporations, Wall Street, and the military-industrial complex that fuel the political establishment that really do have a stranglehold over it. They're the ones dictating what the United States government, what the Pentagon is doing. They really do see China as a quote unquote threat. So when we hear them talk about the China quote unquote threat, they are speaking for themselves, of course, not telling us the real reasons why, or sometimes they do, but they're not telling us clearly what the real reason for their animosity towards China is. They usually do a lot of projection onto China. China is bad because of X. China is bad because of Y, human rights, because of the South China Sea. There's so many talking points, but at the core of it is a real fear that China will not only become the number one economy in terms of size, but that its economy, because of the form and because of the mode of production that China possesses, will also bring about what the first Cold War was about, which was a fear of socialism. Oh no, socialism is coming, communism is coming. That spells doom for a society rooted in the most the most deep-seated, the most heinous form of inequality that we've seen under the history in the history of this world capitalist system. We're seeing the concentration of wealth come to a point where an example like China, while there are of course rich people and there has been reform and opening up, and that has led to a modicum of inequality, we are also seeing China approach problems that are key to the interests of humanity in a completely different way than how the United States does it. We saw that with the COVID-19 pandemic. China was serious. China mobilized both the citizenry, the masses of people, and state resources to ensure that human life was protected. The United States did the opposite. The United States, has a neoliberal, almost entirely private economy, no public health system to speak of, and essentially corporations allowed, what will be probably 1 million people by the time this thing is over to die, while millions more become impoverished because of it. Meanwhile, China's economy is now growing again and also tackling key social problems like extreme poverty, which was eliminated in November of 2020. So these are some of the underlying reasons of the US's antipathy, of the fact that it can't get off of this crash course, this trajectory of war with China, because the military industrial complex and the corporations and the corporate interests that are fueling war, they do see China's example as one that must be arrested. I think that there has been an acknowledgement on the ruling class that short of and we see studies like the Rand Corporation seems to have one almost every year where they talk about the devastating consequence, how bad a war would go with China. And they talk about it as like, we need to get better prepared for war with China. It seems like they've been doing one every year since 2016. But there is an acknowledgement that the policy is not really going to succeed, right? China is going to continue to do what it is doing because China has certain advantages over the United States that kind of disallow any kind of change in the historical development in the current course of history of what we're seeing. But there is this caveat of, okay, well, we always have the final solution, so to speak, to turn to. And so I think all of the aggression is really about how does the United States, how does the United States maintain some kind of competitive edge in world politics and the world economy, while at the same time understanding that the clock is ticking and that a decision will have to be made either to accept number two status. Okay, the United States is not going to be the biggest economy in the world anymore. And with that acceptance, well, how should the United States then position itself? And right now we're seeing with the new Cold War how it wants to position itself. It wants to assert military dominance. It wants to assert hegemony so that it can continue to maintain this mythical dominance that just like all empires is destined to fall and destined to fail. And every system has a life course, but the United States has its establishment, those who really dictate policy, they've decided that the only way to arrest that inevitable scenario is to go out kicking and screaming, and to do so in a way that's extremely dangerous, not only because of the nuclear problem, but also, I mean, look at what we just had with COP26. We had the United States, Joe Biden and his administration beating their chest about how they are the ones who are addressing climate change and China isn't, which is a ridiculous assertion given just the pure raw data in what China has been doing versus the United States funding by tens of billions of dollars annually to fossil fuel corporations, while China has by far more renewable energy capacity than like the next 5 countries combined, including the United States in that. So the reality is clear, but the United States has, with this new Cold War, given a clear message that it will not accept a fall from hegemony without threatening the existence of human life itself on this planet.